overview recap of a daily chart on Bitcoin against US dollar and Bitstamp exchange. And well, without further ado, let's take a look. 64,000, approximately 64,200, 300 seems to be the main imminent support. Quicker support, more immediate support at 64, like I said, 200, indicated by the rising trend of the Beginner Pro. And even though it's rising a little bit slower than it was, let's say, through the entire year, through February and March, which were the most aggressive periods this year so far, we were, we are kind of like getting closer and tighter, right? The oscillations continue to kind of like just calm down and narrow down towards a more invisible apex right here, anywhere between 74,000, which is the new all-time high, and 56,000, which was the overthrow, kind of like a false breakout at the bottom right there, where the pattern just sank below this resistance and came back immediately, climbed higher, and a reverted just based on this inverted head and shoulders pattern. There was this descending triangle type of formation, which kind of like seems to have broken falsely. Again, when we talk about the sideways movement overall, right, the sideways movement tends to have many more traps because ultimately the sideways contributes to lack of momentum, lack of power. And by the definition of it, we're going to oscillate most of the time within the boundaries, within the ranges. And here's the range 74, 56. We continue to move into a weaker period of a quarter three, which typically translates to people taking time off, to quarter three volumes on the trades being lower than usual because, like I said, there's not much interest. And as a result, the demand comes lower, the demand comes off, and if the demand comes off, the prices have less of an impulse to grow fatter and faster and higher, right? So that takes us to a point where we approach seasonally weaker period of sideways price action, taking that into slower momentum, more sideways oscillations, more false traps, boring price action. And the market seems to be in line with that because ultimately we're talking about a significant collapse, significant slide from 40% down to 10 or 15% on a 200-day average basis on the long-term breadth. The percentage of crypto coins being above 200-day moving average, which is in the bullish stance on the long term, is significantly drawn lower from 40% to 15%. That's a significant dip. 55% all the way down to 12% is even more aggressive more aggressive collision right there, of the bulls just, knocking on the wall, immovable wall, and the bearish pressure seems to be taking a higher stance right there. Needless to say, even stronger decline, even fatter, more stronger decline, 60% all the way down to 5% of the crypto assets being above their 20-day moving average. So short-term breadth is terrible. It's definitely not bullish. If there is not much oxygen in the tank, here, the percentage of crypto assets above 200-day moving average, if there's not much oxygen in the tank, there's not much capital. Basically, there's not much movement, not much impetus, not much momentum. That translates to sideways, right? So the breadth on the short term is bearish. The breadth on the medium term is bearish again at 12%, and the breadth on the long term has also decreased substantially, is also arguably bearish. So the breadth conditions are not looking good. The price action continues to oscillate within sideways region, 56 all the way to 74,000. In more immediate support at 64, 200, 300, which we are not far away from. At the same time, we are not far away from the actual all-time high resistance, right? So do not forget in all that, we are still moving in the historical region of the all-time highs, right? The all-time highs, and we are consolidating here. So the consolidation in the bull market, in the rising trend, under the resistance, the new created resistance is typically what leads to continuation. So take that in consideration. And here's another look for the broader context for the precious metals and the CFDs on gold against silver. Gold on top, silver on the bottom. Well, there seems to be a decent advantage of gold against silver, right? As we see the breakout being more mature, lasting for longer, ultimately taking us 2,000 all the way to 24,000, so 2,400. So 20% growth, while silver pushed us anywhere between $30 and $33 right there, taking us basically into a 10% type of a movement and range of the breakout. Significant consolidation that lasted from 2020. So we're talking about the 4-year consolidation, reaccumulation, if you will, for gold, which is in a stronger bull market right now with the trends actually rising, and with the silver just waking up into life, which is very interesting to watch and observe because silver has been definitely way more reluctant and resistant to go to the upside, right? Ever since 2020 breakout, right there, even the COVID dip kind of like followed that by the massive surge on the prices of silver anyway, between $10, $12 all the way to 30, in a significant very growth in a very short time span. Took us later into slower period of oscillations in sideways region for silver and for gold. And the metals are thriving. The metals are thriving also not only because of the war that is going on and there's a lot of geopolitical uncertainty. The precious metals are thriving as well. The market conditions are improving, and typically in the early stages of the bull market, with S&P breaking above 5,400, well above 5,400, Bitcoin being definitely almost 60%, 50-60% year-to-date performance, 160% growth yesterday. Yesteryear, the last year. This all takes us into very decent growth of a continued, like I said, performance of 250% of Bitcoin, 220, 230%, 210%, and on some altcoins. Well, Bitcoin grow, like I said, 160, and then another 50-60% depending on the recent couple of days. There's been some fluctuations. Overall, very good market conditions for the growth sector, for the emerging markets, for the risk assets. And precious metals tend to perform pretty well at the early stages of the bull market. At the same time, when the inflation gets lower, when the market starts feeling this less pressure from the monetary policy from the Fed, good things seem to be ahead. Gold, silver's twice as much, on the breakout side than silver, so something to consider as well. Although both metals show decent price advance, and most likely for the trends to continue higher. And here is a quick look at our partners token at Aleph Zero, at AZERO on a 3-day chart on KuCoin. So each and every single bar represents 3 days of price action. Regardless of the time frame, we seem to be kind of like nuking lower, with the key resistance right now on a daily basis indicated not only by the 200-day moving average, represented actually by this light gray curve at approximately $1.13, the 200-day BPRO trend line at 0.90, which is 90 cents. The BPRO trailer is actually right now at about 70 cents, with the prices at 56, a little bit over 56 cents. So overall, the conditions are not looking perfect. Are not looking perfect if you are bullish. If you are bearish, then this is quite a good setup for the bearish continuation. We see a massive sideways pattern with with an actual downward breakout, with a couple of tests, below the resistance, below the previous support, and all is going to depend basically if we manage to climb back above the broken support. Because if it turns into resistance, if the polarity of the market flips, then the bulls are in trouble. Otherwise, like I said, the entire stance of the bullishness of the intrinsic value of the project itself, brings back to memories of a TRX token back in the day, back in my early full-time Degen days, where I got stopped so many times on trying to trade and time these very wide oscillations here, 0.7 all the way down, all the way up to $2. While in fact, after some time in the deeper region of the bull market, basically this massive consolidation as it seems right now, well, it all depends on the context, because then later the market continued higher and proceeded higher. This gigantic consolidation was just squeezed to almost invisible pieces. So that might be the case of AZERO. Like I said, take it with a grain of salt. We are actually partners. They are great partners. They're great people, incredible people with incredible vision. So I fully subscribe to it. At the same time, the token side doesn't seem to be reflecting that. The traders don't seem to appreciate, at least right now, the latest updates. It brings, however, the opportunities for the bargain hunters, especially for the variable projects. So something to keep in mind. And here's a final analysis, quick video recap of it. Soil against Tether. Again, shout out to our partners at Soil. They are our partners. Incredible team, incredible product right there. And the institutional clients, seem to engage and understand the concept of the token XRW is ultimately that Soil is proposing to them. The token seems to be fairly nice in terms of the performance ever since the listings, on the gate right there on the Gate.io in late October, that we rallied quite significantly. Ever since the first touch point, the first registered prices, we're still heavily, 28x, almost 29x right now from the listing prices. That's a severe rush right there, and 70% down from the peak, from the ultimate peak of this year. That's quite a deep retracement at the same time, right? That's just not something that the biggest bulls would like to see. At the same time, accounting for the overall general market breadth conditions, like I said, 10% of the coins only being above 12% of the coins being above the 50-day averages, and almost 5%, almost 5% only on the 20-day basis. 15% on a 200-day basis. The breadth conditions are not good, and so seems to subscribe at all to that piece of the market period right now. With the high time frame trailer stop, the main resistance at 1.45, almost 46 cents, right? $1.46. We're right at the 200-day moving average region, which typically may act as some sort of like a support, magical support. So we are at the fair price according to the long-term averages. The long-term rising bull market average trend seems to have been reset just now, with the prices touching and dipping to 1.17, and that brings a lot of opportunity for the bargain hunters as well. If you search for the coins that are at the fair prices, then there's not many other ways to determine the fair price, what the fair price is, than observing the averages. And it seems that the 200-day moving average is right now giving you an answer that the prices of soil token for our partners are actually at a fairly nicely reset prices. The mean reversion has been complete. That bearish trend tendency seems to be maintained over the last couple of months, if you will. So the correction tide continues. However, it seems that we have landed at least some local support that is considered a fair price on a long-term basis. So do with that what you will. Take it into consideration as we go. And that's all for today. That's a wrap. God bless you. I'll see you around on next.